500 guests watched in silence as the champagne dripped from her face. Caroline Ashford stood frozen in the center of the Grand Meridian Ballroom, 7 months pregnant, designer gown ruined, mascara running down her cheeks like black tears. Her billionaire husband had just thrown a drink in her face, in front of everyone who mattered, to defend the woman standing beside him, his mistress. But here is what Marcus Ashford did not know. 40 feet away, hidden in the crowd, someone was recording everything. Crystal clear video, perfect audio, every word, every drop, every cruel laugh from the other woman. That someone was Caroline's father, a retired federal judge who had been watching his son-in-law for months, waiting, gathering evidence, preparing for this exact moment. What happened next would destroy a billionaire empire, expose secrets buried for years, and transform a humiliated wife into something Marcus never expected. His worst nightmare. This is that story. The champagne hit her face before she heard the glass shatter. Caroline Ashford stood frozen in the center of the Grand Meridian Hotel ballroom. 500 pairs of eyes turned toward her. The string quartet stopped mid-note. Forks clinked against plates and then went silent. Even the chandelier seemed to dim, as if the crystals themselves were holding their breath. Cold liquid ran down her cheeks. It dripped from her chin onto the bodice of her navy blue gown. The silk darkened where the champagne soaked through. Her mascara stung her eyes. Her lips tasted bitter with expensive French champagne that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. 7 months pregnant, standing in a puddle of Veuve Clicquot, in front of every person who mattered in this city. Her husband Marcus straightened his jacket. He did not look at her. He looked at the woman beside him, the woman with the red dress and the smirk that could cut glass. "Let us go, Sloan," he said. His voice was calm, almost bored. "The company here has become tedious." Sloan Mitchell laughed, a high, tinkling sound that echoed through the silent ballroom. She tucked her perfectly manicured hand into Marcus's elbow. Her red dress caught the chandelier light as they walked toward the exit. Click, click, click. Her heels marked each step like a metronome counting down the end of Caroline's world. Caroline still had not moved. Her hand went to her belly. The baby kicked. Once, twice, 3 times, as if her daughter knew something terrible had just happened, as if she was trying to comfort her mother from the inside. She wanted to scream. She wanted to run after him and demand an explanation. She wanted to collapse onto the marble floor and pretend this was a nightmare she would wake from any moment now. She did none of those things, because Caroline Ashford had been raised to maintain composure, to never let them see you break, to smile through the pain and save your tears for the privacy of your own bathroom. So she stood there, champagne dripping, makeup running, dignity shattered, and she did not make a sound. 40 feet away, near the silent auction table, a man in a charcoal suit held his phone steady. The screen faced the scene. The red recording light blinked in the dim light. His hand did not shake. His expression did not change. Walter Brennan, retired federal judge and Caroline's father, had spent 42 years on the bench. He had seen murderers confess. He had watched innocent men weep when they were finally freed. He had sentenced corrupt politicians and corporate criminals and men who thought their wealth made them untouchable. He had learned long ago to never show his hand. He did not lower his phone until Marcus and Sloan disappeared through the gold-trimmed doors. Then he tucked it carefully into his jacket pocket. Evidence secured, Caroline's mother reached her first. Dorothy Brennan moved through the frozen crowd like water through rocks, smooth, purposeful. Her silver hair was perfectly styled. Her black dress was elegant and understated. Her face betrayed nothing except maternal concern. "Come with me, sweetheart," Dorothy said quietly. She draped a cashmere pashmina over Caroline's shoulders. The warmth was a small comfort against the cold shock spreading through her body. "Right now, do not say anything. Just come with me." "He threw champagne at me." Caroline's voice came out as a whisper, barely audible. "In front of everyone. He actually did it. I know, we all saw. Now come with me." Dorothy guided her toward the side corridor. The crowd parted like the Red Sea. No one spoke. No one knew what to say. What was the etiquette for witnessing a billionaire assault his pregnant wife at a charity event? Apparently, the etiquette was silence. Carolyn's heels clicked against the marble. Click, click, click. Each step felt mechanical. Her body moved without her permission. Left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot. Keep walking, keep breathing. Do not fall apart. Not here. Not yet. The bathroom door swung open. The fluorescent lights were harsh after the ballroom's golden glow. Everything was white and sterile and too bright. Carolyn caught her reflection in the mirror that stretched across the entire wall. She did not recognize the woman staring back at her. Mascara streaked down her cheeks like black tears. Her carefully styled hair hung in wet clumps around her face. The navy gown clung to her pregnant belly, stained and ruined. The Cartier necklace Marcus had given her for their 5th anniversary hung against her chest like a mocking reminder of better times. She looked exactly how she felt. Destroyed. "Mom," her voice cracked. "He brought her to our charity event. He brought his mistress to the Brennan Foundation Gala." Dorothy turned on the faucet. She wet a hand towel with warm water. "I know. Everyone knows now. Everyone saw. 500 people just watched my husband throw a drink in my face because I asked him to leave with his girlfriend." "Yes, they did." Dorothy began dabbing at Caroline's face. Gentle strokes, careful movements. The way she had cleaned scraped knees 30 years ago when Caroline fell off her bicycle. The way she had wiped away tears when Caroline's first boyfriend broke up with her in 9th grade. Some things never changed. Mothers were always there to clean up the mess. "I confronted him," Caroline continued. Her voice was stronger now, steadier. "I told him I knew about the affair. I have known for 2 months. I found hotel receipts in his briefcase. I saw text messages on his phone. I was not making a scene. I just wanted him to take her and go. We could discuss it at home, like adults." "What did he say?" "He said I was trying to embarrass him, that I was always the victim, that I was being dramatic." Carolyn laughed bitterly. The sound echoed off the marble walls. "And then he grabbed a champagne glass from a passing waiter and threw it in my face." The bathroom door burst open. Tessa Caldwell rushed in, her emerald dress rustling with urgency. Her red hair was coming loose from its careful updo. Her eyes were wild with fury. "Caroline, oh my God, are you okay?" Tessa pulled her into a hug. The embrace was fierce and protective. "I am going to destroy that man. I swear to God, I will end him. I will burn his entire empire to the ground." "Tessa," Dorothy's voice was calm, controlled. "Perhaps some water for Caroline." "Right, yes, water." Tessa grabbed a crystal glass from the vanity and filled it from the sink. Her hands shook with rage as she handed it over. "The whole ballroom is talking. People are recording on their phones. This is going to be everywhere by morning." TMZ, page 6, every gossip blog in existence. Carolyn took the water, but did not drink. "Let them talk, let them record. I have nothing to hide." The door opened again, slower this time, more deliberate. Walter Brennan stepped inside. He checked that the room was empty, except for family. Then he closed the door behind him and turned the lock. "Caroline," he said. His voice was the same voice that had delivered thousands of verdicts. Steady, authoritative, completely in control. "I need you to see something." He held out his phone. The screen showed a frozen image. Caroline in her navy gown. Marcus's arm raised, the champagne midair, a golden arc suspended between them. Sloane watching with that horrible smirk. "You recorded it," Carolyn said. "Every second. Audio is crystal clear. His words. Your words." That woman's laugh. Walter's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "I have been watching him for months, sweetheart. The way he looked at that woman at the Christmas party. I know that look. I have seen it in my courtroom 1,000 times. The look of a man who thinks he can get away with anything." While Carolyn watched the video play, she watched herself stand there, helpless, humiliated. She watched Marcus throw the champagne. She watched Sloane laugh. She watched the crowd gasp and freeze. She watched herself become a victim. "Daddy, he assaulted me." "Yes, he did." Walter's voice hardened. "In front of 500 witnesses. With video evidence. while you, a 7 months pregnant twin, his child. That is not just grounds for divorce. That is a criminal offense. Wow. The baby kicked again. Harder this time. Almost angry, Carolyn pressed her palm against her belly. What do I do now? Walter put his phone back in his pocket. Now you come home with us. You do not go back to that penthouse tonight. You do not speak to Marcus. You do not respond to any calls or messages. In the morning, we begin. Begin what? Making sure he never hurts you again. Making sure he pays for what he did. Making sure you and that baby are protected for the rest of your lives. Carolyn looked at her father, the man who had spent her entire life protecting her, the man who had walked her down the aisle 7 years ago, the man who had shaken Marcus's hand and welcomed him into the family, the man who had apparently seen through Marcus long before Caroline did. I trusted him, she whispered. I loved him. I thought we were going to spend our whole lives together. I know, sweetheart. I know. How did I not see it? How did I miss all the signs? Walter pulled her into his arms. She let herself be held, the way she had as a little girl when the world seemed too big and too scary. Because he did not want you to see, Walter said quietly. Men like Marcus are very good at hiding who they really are. That is not your fault. That is his design. Carolyn closed her eyes. The tears finally came, hot and silent and unstoppable. This was the worst moment of her life. She was certain of it. She was wrong. What she would discover in the next 24 hours would shatter everything she thought she knew about her marriage, about her husband, about the life she had been living for the past 7 years. But that was tomorrow. Tonight, there was only this, a ruined dress, a broken heart, and a father who had somehow known to record it all. They took the service exit to avoid the crowd. Dorothy's driver brought the town car around to the loading dock. The black Mercedes waited in the shadows, engine running, headlights off, like a getaway car at a crime scene, which in a way, it was. Carolyn climbed into the back seat, her wet gown stuck to the leather upholstery. She did not care. She did not care about anything anymore except getting away from that ballroom, away from those staring eyes, away from the whispers and the judgment and the pity, especially the pity. She could handle anything except the pity. Her phone began buzzing before they even left the parking garage. The vibrations were constant, relentless, like a swarm of angry bees trapped in her clutch. Text after text, call after call. The screen lit up with names she recognized. Friends, acquaintances, people she had not spoken to in years, people who suddenly had something very important to say to her. Someone posted a video, Tessa said from the front seat. She had insisted on coming. Wild horses could not have kept her away. It already has 50,000 views, and it has only been 20 minutes. Carolyn did not look. She stared out the window at the city lights passing by, blurred streaks of gold and white against the darkness. The hashtag is trending, Tessa continued. Gala drama, billionaire abuser, protect Caroline. Twitter is going absolutely insane. Turn it off, Dorothy said. She does not need to see that tonight. No. Caroline's voice was quiet but firm. I want to know what they are saying. Tessa handed her phone back. Caroline scrolled through the comments with numb fingers. Some were supportive, prayers for the pregnant wife, demands for justice, offers of help from total strangers who had never met her but felt connected to her pain. Others were cruel. She must have provoked him. She was probably lying about the pregnancy. Gold digger got what she deserved. Look at how calm she is. She is clearly faking it for the cameras. The cruelty did not surprise her. The internet was always cruel. What surprised her was how many people had opinions about something they knew nothing about. I was being gaslit the whole time. The words came out as barely a whisper. Every late night at the office, every business trip that lasted longer than expected. Every time he said I was imagining things. He made me think I was going crazy. You are not crazy, Walter said from the driver's seat. And now you have proof that you never were. The car pulled through the wrought iron gates of her parents' estate, the house where she had grown up, the Georgian mansion with the white columns in the circular driveway, the house she had left 7 years ago to marry Marcus Ashford. She thought she was building something better. A new family, a new life, a future filled with love and children and growing old together. She thought wrong. The guest room had not changed since high school. Caroline stood in the doorway, taking it in. The pale pink walls she had begged for when she was 14. The white four-poster bed with the hand-stitched quilt her grandmother had made. The bookshelf crammed with old paperbacks and debate trophies and photo albums from summer camps. Her law school acceptance letter hung framed on the wall. Yale University, full scholarship. The proudest moment of her academic life. A photo of her and Marcus at their engagement party sat on the dresser. Both of them smiling. Both of them certain they had found forever. She picked up the photo, studied his face. The square jaw, the dark hair perfectly styled. The blue eyes that had seemed so warm and loving when they first met. When did it change? When did the man she married become the man who threw champagne in her face? Or had he always been this way? Had she simply refused to see it? He used to bring me flowers every Friday, Carolyn said to the empty room, for the first 2 years of our marriage. Every Friday without fail. White roses. My favorite. She set the photo face down on the dresser. Then it became every other Friday, then once a month, then not at all. She sat down on the edge of the bed. The mattress was softer than she remembered. I told myself he was just busy. The company was growing. He had a lot on his mind. I told myself the flowers did not matter. What mattered was that he came home every night. Except he did not always come home every night. Not anymore. Her mother knocked softly on the door. I brought you some tea and a change of clothes. Dorothy set the tray on the nightstand. Chamomile, Carolyn's favorite since childhood. Warm and golden and smelling like comfort. Thank you, Mom. Do you want to talk about it? Carolyn shook her head. Not yet. I need to think. I need to understand how I got here. Dorothy sat beside her on the bed, close but not touching, giving her space while still being present. When I was young, Dorothy said quietly, my mother told me something I never forgot. She said that love is not just a feeling. It is a choice you make every single day. And when someone stops choosing you, all the feelings in the world cannot make up for that absence. Did you ever feel like Dad stopped choosing you? No, not once in 40 years. Dorothy took her daughter's hand. That is how I knew something was wrong with Marcus. I watched you waiting for him to choose you. Over and over again. And I watched him choose everything else instead. The tears came again, quieter this time, less urgent, the tears of exhaustion rather than shock. Why did I not see it? Because you loved him. Love makes us blind to things we do not want to see. I feel so stupid. You are not stupid. You are human. There is a difference. Dorothy kissed her forehead, the same way she had when Caroline was 5 years old and afraid of thunderstorms. Get some sleep, sweetheart. Tomorrow will be difficult. You will need your strength. After her mother left, Caroline changed out of the ruined gown. She pulled on an old Yale sweatshirt and flannel pajama pants. Clothes that still lived in this closet after all these years. Clothes from a simpler time when her biggest worry was passing the bar exam. She lay down on the bed. The ceiling was the same pale pink as the walls. She used to lie here as a teenager, staring up at that ceiling, dreaming about her future. The career she would build, the man she would marry, the children she would raise. The future had looked so bright then, full of possibility, full of hope. Now it looked like nothing but wreckage. I am sorry, little one, she whispered to her belly. I did not know. I swear I did not know what kind of man your father really was. The baby shifted, a foot or an elbow pressing against her ribs, a reminder that she was not alone in this, that someone was depending on her to be strong. Caroline closed her eyes. Sleep came eventually, but it brought no peace. She dreamed of champagne and laughter, and a man in an expensive suit who kept walking away no matter how loud she called his name. Morning light filtered through the lace curtains. Caroline opened her eyes slowly. For 3 beautiful seconds, she forgot. The room was warm and familiar. The quilt was soft against her skin. The smell of her mother's coffee drifted up from downstairs. Then she remembered. The champagne, the silence, the laughter, the look on Marcus's face as he turned his back on her. Everything came flooding back. A tidal wave of memory and pain that made her want to pull the covers over her head and never come out. But the baby moved, a gentle reminder that hiding was not an option anymore. She forced herself out of bed. Her body ached in places she did not expect. Her shoulders were tense from sleeping curled in a ball. Her eyes were swollen from crying in her sleep. Her belly felt heavier than usual, as if the baby had gained 5 pounds overnight. Her reflection in the mirror was not encouraging, dark circles under her eyes like bruises. Her hair was a tangled mess of champagne-stiffened waves. Her lips were cracked from dehydration. She looked like a woman who had been through a war, which in a way she had. A knock at the door, her father's voice. "Caroline, breakfast is ready. We need to talk." She splashed cold water on her face, pulled her hair back into a messy ponytail, changed into clean clothes from her old closet, jeans that no longer fit over her belly, and an oversized sweater that smelled faintly of mothballs. Good enough. She did not have the energy for anything more. Downstairs, the kitchen smelled like coffee and bacon and fresh bread. Dorothy stood at the stove, flipping pancakes with practiced efficiency. Walter sat at the farmhouse table, his laptop open, his reading glasses perched on his nose. It looked so normal, so safe, so completely at odds with the chaos swirling inside Caroline's chest. "Sit down, sweetheart," Walter said without looking up from his screen. "Eat something first. You are going to need your strength." Caroline sat. Her mother placed a plate in front of her, pancakes with fresh blueberries, crispy bacon, a glass of freshly squeezed orange juice, her favorite breakfast since childhood. She took a bite. It tasted like cardboard. "The video has 4 million views," Walter said. He turned the laptop toward her. Every major news outlet picked it up overnight. TMZ, People Magazine, the New York Times, CNN, even the BBC. 4 million. 4 million people had watched her husband throw champagne in her face. What are they saying? Mixed reactions. As expected, most are sympathetic. They see a pregnant woman being assaulted by her wealthy husband. The optics are terrible for Marcus. Walter removed his glasses and rubbed his eyes. But his PR team released a statement 2 hours ago. They are trying to spin it. He turned the laptop back toward her. Carolyn read the statement on the screen. "Mrs. Ashford has a history of emotional instability and has been receiving treatment for anxiety and paranoia for several years. Mr. Ashford acted in self-defense after she made wild accusations in public that threatened both his reputation and his business interests. He is deeply concerned for her mental health and the well-being of their unborn child. He asked for privacy during this difficult time and hopes his wife will get the help she clearly needs." Carolyn read it again and again. Each word felt like a knife sliding between her ribs. "Self-defense," she said. Her voice was barely a whisper. "He is claiming self-defense." "Emotional instability." Dorothy's voice was ice. She had stopped flipping pancakes. She stood at the stove with the spatula frozen in her hand. "They are going to try to make you look crazy. I have never had a mental health crisis in my life. I have never even seen a therapist. Where are they getting this?" "They are making it up," Walter said flatly. "It is what men like Marcus do when they get caught. Attack the credibility of the accuser, make the victim look unstable so no one believes her." "But it is lies, all of it. I can prove it is lies." "We know that, and we can prove it." Walter pulled out a thick manila folder. "But first, there is something you need to see. Something I have been gathering for the past 6 months." He spread the documents across the kitchen table. Medical records, financial statements, emails printed on crisp white paper, bank transactions highlighted in yellow. "What is all this?" "Evidence. I started collecting it after the Christmas party last year. The way Marcus looked at that woman, the way he touched her when he thought no one was watching. I knew something was wrong. I just did not have proof yet." Carolyn stared at the documents. Her father had been investigating her husband for 6 months, watching, waiting, gathering ammunition. "Why did you not tell me?" "Because I was not certain, and I did not want to destroy your marriage based on suspicion." Walter's voice softened. "I hoped I was wrong. I prayed I was wrong. But I knew I had to be prepared in case I was right." Carolyn picked up one of the documents. A bank statement, Marcus's personal account. Transactions highlighted in yellow. 3 months ago, Marcus transferred $18 million to offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands, Walter explained. He has been slowly moving assets out of the country, hiding them in shell companies, preparing for something. Preparing for what? Divorce. Walter slid another document toward her. He has been consulting with divorce attorneys since August. 4 different firms, all specializing in high asset separations. August. She had told Marcus she was pregnant in July. He was planning to leave me, before the baby was even born, before he even knew if it would be a boy or a girl. It appears so, but he has a problem. Walter pulled out another document. Your prenuptial agreement. Carolyn remembered signing it 7 years ago, the week before their wedding. Marcus's lawyers had presented it as a formality, something all wealthy families did. Nothing personal. Her father had insisted on adding his own provisions before she signed. She had thought he was being overprotective. Now she understood he was being smart. The prenup contains an infidelity clause, Walter said. If either party engages in adultery during the marriage, they forfeit their claim to marital assets. The cheating spouse gets nothing. I remember, you insisted on that clause. And Marcus agreed to it, because at the time, he thought he would never get caught. He thought he was too smart, too careful. Walter's jaw tightened. He was wrong. But we still need to prove adultery. His lawyers will claim the affair never happened. They will say that Sloan is just a colleague, a friend. That brings me to the last piece of information. Walter paused. He looked at Dorothy. She nodded slowly. This is going to be difficult to hear, but you need to know. Just tell me. Sloan Mitchell is pregnant, 8 weeks along. The father is Marcus. The words did not register at first. Carolyn heard them, but they did not make sense. They were just sounds, syllables strung together in a meaningless pattern. Sloan was pregnant with Marcus's child, while Caroline was 7 months pregnant with Marcus's child. He got another woman pregnant while his wife was carrying his baby. The room tilted. The edges of Caroline's vision went dark. She gripped the edge of the table so hard her knuckles turned white. I am going to be sick, she said. She made it to the kitchen sink just in time. Everything she had eaten came back up. The pancakes, the orange juice, the bitterness of betrayal. Dorothy was beside her instantly, cool hands on her forehead, gentle words in her ear, a wet cloth pressed against the back of her neck. Breathe, sweetheart. Just breathe, in and out, that is it. But Carolyn could not breathe. The room was spinning, her chest was tight, her baby was kicking frantically, responding to her distress. He was not just cheating. The words came out between gasps. He was building a new family, a replacement family. He was going to throw me away like garbage and start over with her. I know. Our entire marriage was a lie. Everything I believed, everything I trusted, all of it was a lie. Carolyn gripped the edge of the sink. The cold porcelain bit into her palms. She forced herself to take deep breaths. In and out, in and out. The baby kicked again, softer this time. A gentle reminder. You are not alone. I am here. We are in this together. I am not crazy, Carolyn said. Her voice was stronger now, steadier. I knew something was wrong. For months I knew. I felt it in my bones. And every time I said something, he made me think I was imagining it. He made me doubt my own sanity. That is called gaslighting, what Dorothy said. It is what abusers do. They make you question reality so you never trust yourself enough to leave. But I was right. I was right about everything. Yes, Ushaya, yes you were. Carolyn turned around. She leaned against the sink and looked at her parents. The 2 people who had loved her unconditionally since the day she was born. The 2 people who had never stopped believing in her, even when she stopped believing in herself. What happens now? She asked. Walter's expression shifted. The concerned father became the federal judge. Sharp, focused, ready for battle. We fight. We file criminal assault charges. We file for divorce. We enforce the prenup. We take everything he has. And if he fights back, he will fight back. Men like Marcus always do. They do not go quietly. They do not surrender gracefully. They burn everything to the ground before they admit defeat. Then what? Then we burn brighter. Walter stood up from the table. He crossed to his daughter and put his hands on her shoulders. You are not alone in this, Carolyn. You have your mother. You have me. You have friends who love you. You have the truth on your side. And most importantly, you have that baby to fight for. Caroline touched her belly, her daughter, her reason to keep going even when she wanted to give up. I am scared, Daddy. I know, but fear is not weakness. Fear is what keeps us alert, what keeps us sharp. Walter pulled her into a hug. And I promise you this, that man is going to pay for what he did. Every last penny, every last shred of dignity. I will make sure of it. For the first time since the champagne hit her face, Carolyn felt something other than despair. She felt hope. It was small, fragile, barely a flicker in the darkness. But it was there, and sometimes that was enough. The next 3 hours were a blur of phone calls and strategy sessions. Graham Whitfield, Walter's former law clerk and one of the best family attorneys in the state, arrived at 10:30 sharp. He brought 2 associates and enough paperwork to fill an entire filing cabinet. His suit was impeccable. His handshake was firm. His eyes were kind but determined. Carolyn Ipa, he said, taking a seat at the dining room table, I am deeply sorry for what you are going through, but I promise you we are going to make this right. Thank you. Now, let us begin. He opened his briefcase and pulled out a stack of documents. I have reviewed the prenuptial agreement. It is airtight. I helped your father draft it myself 7 years ago. The infidelity clause is clear and enforceable. But we need to prove infidelity. Marcus has been careful. No paper trail, no digital evidence that we know of. Sloane's pregnancy is proof. Once paternity is established through a DNA test, the clause activates automatically. Marcus will not be able to challenge it. He will try. Of course he will try, but trying and succeeding are very different things. Graham spread more documents across the table. In the meantime, we need to file for emergency protective orders. The video constitutes assault, possibly battery, depending on how the prosecutor interprets it. Criminal charges are absolutely on the table. What about the custody implications? Graham paused. His expression grew serious. That is where things get complicated. Marcus has resources, influence. He will hire the best lawyers money can buy. He will claim you are an unfit mother. He will use the fake mental health history they created in that PR statement. But it is all lies. We know that. But lies can be powerful when they are told loudly enough and often enough. We need to get ahead of this. Graham pulled out his phone. I am filing our motions today. Emergency restraining order, criminal assault complaint, petition for divorce, all of it. We strike first. We strike hard. We do not give him time to regroup. Caroline's phone buzzed on the table. Marcus's name flashed on the screen. Do not answer, Graham said quickly. I know. She let it ring until voicemail picked up. Seconds later, a text message appeared. Caroline, let us be reasonable about this. Call me. Another text 10 seconds later. You are overreacting. We can work this out like adults. Another text. I am warning you. Do not make this ugly. You will regret it. She showed the text to Graham. He photographed each one with his phone. Classic manipulation tactics, we said. Reasonable, overreacting, warning. He is escalating through the standard patterns. Save everything he sends. Screenshot every message. We will use all of it. Should I respond? Absolutely not. From this moment forward, every communication goes through me. You do not speak to him. You do not text him. You do not email him. Nothing. The doorbell rang. Dorothy went to answer it. She returned a moment later with a man in a cheap suit carrying a manila envelope. Mrs. Caroline Ashford? He asked. Yes. He handed her the envelope. You have been served. He left without another word. Carolyn opened the envelope with trembling hands. Inside was a legal document. Thick. Official, stamped with a court seal. Emergency motion for custody evaluation. He is trying to take my baby. The words came out strangled. He is claiming I am an unfit mother. Walter took the document, read it quickly. His jaw tightened so hard Carolyn could see the muscle jump. He filed this at 8 o'clock this morning, before his PR statement. He planned this. He had his lawyers ready to go. On what grounds? Mental instability, erratic behavior, risk to the unborn child. Walter set the paper down. He is using the Gala incident against you, claiming you provoked him by making a public scene, claiming you have been behaving erratically for months. I asked him to leave quietly. That was all I did. I did not raise my voice. I did not make accusations in front of everyone. I pulled him aside and spoke privately. I know, and we have video proof. Walter turned to Graham. We need to file first, everything. Criminal assault charges, civil suit for damages, emergency restraining order. We cannot let him control the narrative. Graham was already typing on his phone. I have associates on standby. We can have paperwork filed within 2 hours. The judge I know best has availability this afternoon. Do it. All of it. The next hour moved like a hurricane. Papers were signed. Motions were drafted. Phone calls were made to judges and clerks and courthouse officials. Carolyn sat in the middle of it all, her hand resting on her belly. The baby had gone quiet, as if sensing the tension and knowing it was time to be still. The video needs to go public, Graham said. The full, unedited version. Right now, Marcus is controlling the narrative. His PR statement is getting coverage. People are reading his version of events. We need to change that. Every major news outlet, Walter agreed. Simultaneously. No exclusive deals. Everyone gets it at the same time. We want maximum exposure. Carolyn looked at her father. You are sure about this? Sweetheart, 4 million people have already seen a clip from someone's phone. The damage is done. Now we make sure they see the whole truth, not the edited version, not the spun version, the truth. By noon, the unedited video was everywhere. Every news channel, every website, every social media platform, 4 minutes and 37 seconds of crystal clear footage, complete with audio. You could hear Marcus's words clearly. The company here has become tedious. You could hear Sloane's laugh, high and mocking and cruel. You could see Caroline's face, the shock, the betrayal, the champagne dripping from her chin. And you could see her not fight back, not scream, not cause a scene, just stand there with dignity, even as her world crumbled around her. The public reaction shifted within hours. The hashtag changed, not gala drama anymore. Now it was justice for Caroline. Her phone buzzed with a new text, unknown number. You just made the biggest mistake of your life. She knew the sender, even without a name attached. Marcus had declared war. So had she. 3 days after the gala, Caroline sat in her childhood bedroom and tried to remember when she had first sensed something was wrong. Not the affair. That was obvious now. But the shift, the subtle change in the way Marcus looked at her, the moment when the man she married became someone else. She pulled out her wedding album from the closet. The leather cover was smooth under her fingers, expensive and pristine. The pages crinkled softly as she turned them. There they were on the altar, St. Patrick's Cathedral, 800 guests in the pews, flowers everywhere. The most beautiful day of her life, or so she had thought. Marcus stood tall in his perfectly tailored Tom Ford suit. Carolyn floated beside him in her mother's vintage Vera Wang gown, altered to fit her frame. Both of them smiling. Both of them certain they had found their forever person. You look so happy, Tessa said from the doorway. She had been staying at the Brennan estate since the gala, refusing to leave Carolyn's side. We all thought you had found the perfect life, the fairy tale ending. I thought I had too. Tessa crossed the room and sat beside her on the bed. She smelled like the lavender soap from the guest bathroom. When did it start? The affair with Sloane, I mean. Do you have any idea? I do not know for certain. Maybe a year ago, maybe longer. Carolyn turned another page in the album, Their First Dance. She remembered the song, At Last by Etta James. Marcus had chosen it himself. He said it perfectly described how he felt about finding her. There were signs, Carolyn continued. I just did not want to see them. What signs? She closed the album, set it aside on the bed. He stopped touching me. Not in bed. I mean the casual touches. The little moments of physical connection that happened without thinking. Her voice was distant, remembering. He used to put his hand on the small of my back when we walked together. He used to play with my hair while we watched television. He used to reach for my hand in the car just to hold it. And then one day he just stopped. That could mean a lot of things: stress, distraction, midlife crisis. That is what I told myself. There was always a reasonable explanation. Carolyn stared at the wall. A poster from her high school debate championship still hung there, faded and curling at the edges. A relic from a simpler time. Then there were the business trips. He used to call me every night when he traveled. Every single night, no matter what time zone he was in. Then it became every other night. Then once every few days. Then sometimes not at all. And you did not think that was strange? I thought he was busy. The company was expanding internationally. The IPO was in the planning stages. He had a lot on his mind. She laughed, a bitter sound that echoed off the pink walls. I made excuses for him. For years, because making excuses was easier than facing the truth. Tessa took her hand, squeezed it tight. Honey, I have to tell you something. I should have told you years ago. I have been carrying this guilt ever since, and I cannot keep it to myself anymore. And what is it? Remember that trip to Monaco 3 years ago? The one where Marcus said the hotel lost your reservation and you had to stay in separate rooms? I remember. He was furious about it. Called the manager, demanded compensation, made a whole scene. The hotel did not lose your reservation. Tessa's voice was quiet, pained. Marcus requested 2 rooms, specifically, one for you and one for someone else, a woman. Carolyn went very still. The baby shifted inside her, as if responding to the sudden tension. How do you know that? The concierge was someone I knew from a hospitality conference years ago. He owed me a favor. I asked him after you came back from that trip acting strange. You kept saying something felt off, but you could not put your finger on what it was. You investigated my husband. I investigated a man who was making my best friend doubt her own instincts. Tessa's eyes were wet with unshed tears. I should have told you then. I am so sorry. I thought maybe I was wrong. I thought maybe there was an innocent explanation. I did not want to be the one to destroy your marriage. There was an explanation, just not an innocent one. Carolyn stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the garden was in full spring bloom, roses and hydrangeas and her mother's beloved peonies. The same garden where she had played as a child, the same garden where she had gotten married. Monaco was 3 years ago, she said quietly. The affair has been going on for 3 years, maybe longer. I am so sorry, Carolyn. It is not your fault. None of this is your fault. She pressed her forehead against the cool glass. I kept wondering what I did wrong, what I could have done differently. Maybe if I had been more attentive, more exciting, more beautiful, more something. Stop, right now. I know it is not my fault. Logically, I know that. Her breath fogged the glass, but I still feel it. The shame, the failure. The sense that if I had just been better, he would not have needed to look elsewhere. That is what abusers want you to think. They make you feel responsible for their choices. I was supposed to be smarter than this. I graduated top of my class at Yale Law. I could spot a lying witness from across a courtroom. I could read a deposition and find every inconsistency. But I could not see what was happening in my own house, in my own bed. Tessa stood and crossed to her, put her arms around Caroline from behind, held her while she stared out at the garden. Do you know what the worst part is? Caroline asked. What? I still love him, or I love the person I thought he was. The man who brought me flowers every Friday. The man who cried when I told him I was pregnant. The man who used to make me laugh until I could not breathe. That man might not have ever existed. I know, and I hate myself for still loving him anyway. You are not stupid for loving someone. You are human. Love does not come with an off switch. They stood there for a long moment, 2 women framed by a window, the spring sunlight warming their faces, the baby kicking gently between them. How do I stop loving someone who never existed? Caroline asked. I do not know, but you will figure it out. You always do. That night, Caroline could not sleep. She wandered the house like a ghost in her grandmother's old bathrobe, through the kitchen where she had learned to make chocolate chip cookies, through the living room where she had practiced her debate speeches, through her father's study where she had announced her decision to go to law school. Every room held memories, happy ones, safe ones, before Marcus, before everything fell apart. She ended up in the library, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves lined with leather-bound volumes and dusty paperbacks. A worn leather armchair sat by the fireplace. The smell of old paper and wood polish and her father's pipe tobacco lingered in the air. Her father sat in the armchair, reading by lamplight. A glass of whiskey sat untouched on the side table. His reading glasses were perched on his nose. "Could not sleep?" he asked without looking up. "No, how?" She settled onto the ottoman at his feet, the way she had as a little girl. "You either, apparently." "I have not slept well since the gala." He closed his book, set it aside. "I keep thinking about what I missed, what signs I should have seen earlier, what I could have done to prevent this. You saw enough. You started gathering evidence 6 months ago. But I did not act sooner. I did not warn you. I watched you suffer, and I said nothing." His voice cracked slightly. "I failed to protect you." "Daddy, no." Carolyn took his hand. His skin was warm and papery, the hand of a man who had spent his life writing verdicts and shaking hands. "This is not your fault. None of this is your fault. I walked you down the aisle. I gave him permission to marry you. I welcomed him into this family with open arms. Because he fooled all of us. That is what men like him do. They are professional deceivers." Walter looked at his daughter. In the lamplight, she could see the years on his face, the lines around his eyes, the silver in his hair, the weight of this situation pressing down on him. "I remember the day you were born," he said. 28 hours of labor. Your mother nearly died twice. But then you came out screaming, and everything was worth it." He smiled at the memory. "I held you in my arms, this tiny pink creature with your mother's nose and my stubborn chin, and I made a promise. I swore I would always protect you, that I would never let anyone hurt you. You are. It does not feel like enough." Carolyn leaned her head against his knee, the way she had as a little girl when the world seemed too big and too scary. "Tell me we will win," she said. "Tell me he will pay for what he did." "He will pay." Walter's voice hardened, steel beneath the softness. "I have seen thousands of men like Marcus in my courtroom. Arrogant, entitled, convinced their money and their connections make them untouchable. They all fall, eventually. Every single one. What if he hurts me first? What if he takes the baby? What if his lies convince people I am crazy? He will not get the chance. We have evidence he cannot refute. We have allies he does not know about. And we have something he will never have." "What?" "The truth." Walter stroked her hair gently. "Lies require constant maintenance. You have to remember what you said and to whom. You have to keep your story straight. You have to anticipate every question. The truth is simple. It just is what it is." They sat in silence for a while. The old clock on the mantel ticked steadily. Somewhere outside, an owl hooted in the darkness. "I used to dream about my wedding day," Carolyn said eventually. "Since I was a little girl, I would spend hours imagining the dress, the flowers, the music, the man waiting for me at the end of the aisle. I remember you used to parade around the garden with my mother's tablecloth for a veil. The reality was nothing like the dream. Maybe that should have been my first warning." "What do you mean?" "At the altar, when I looked at Marcus, I expected to feel overwhelming joy, complete certainty, that sense of rightness you read about in romance novels. But I felt nervous, anxious, like something was slightly off tune. Everyone has pre-wedding jitters. Maybe, or maybe some part of me knew." She touched her belly. The baby was quiet now, sleeping peacefully. The signs were all there. I just did not want to see them. Walter kissed the top of her head. "You see them now, that is what matters. Seeing them does not make it hurt less. No, it does not, but it means you can protect yourself and your baby and every other woman who might fall for a man like Marcus Ashford." Carolyn thought about her daughter, the life growing inside her, the innocent child who had not asked for any of this. "She will never know him," Carolyn said. "Not really. She will grow up without a father. She will grow up with a family who loves her. She will grow up with a mother who fought like hell for her. That is more than many children have. I wanted to give her everything. You will, just not the way you planned. The clock chimed 2 in the morning. Caroline yawned despite herself. Go to bed, sweetheart, Walter said. Tomorrow will be another long day. There are more battles to fight. I do not think I can sleep. Try anyway, for the baby. Carolyn stood. She was halfway to the door when she turned back. Daddy? Yes? Thank you for believing me, for preparing for this even when I could not see it coming, for being ready. Always. That is what fathers do. She climbed the stairs to her room. This time when she lay down, sleep came. It was restless and full of dreams she would not remember. But it was sleep, small victories. She would take them where she could find them. 1 week after the gala, Nathan Ashford stood on the Brennan family porch with a cardboard box tucked under his arm. Carolyn recognized him immediately through the window, Marcus's younger brother. Same dark hair, same sharp cheekbones, same tall, athletic build. But where Marcus's eyes were cold and calculating, Nathan's held something else. Warmth, maybe, or guilt, or both. I should have come sooner, he said when she opened the door. I am sorry it took me this long to find the courage. Carolyn studied him. He looked exhausted. Dark circles under his eyes like he had not slept in days. His expensive clothes were wrinkled. His usually perfect hair was unkempt. What do you want, Nathan? To help, if you will let me. He shifted the box in his arms. I have something you need to see, something that could change everything. Against her better judgment, she stepped aside to let him in. Her father appeared in the hallway immediately. Walter's instincts were sharp. He had heard the doorbell and come to investigate. Nathan Ashford, Walter said. His voice was neutral, but his eyes were watchful. This is unexpected. I know. I should have come days ago, weeks ago, years ago, honestly. Nathan set the box on the kitchen table. His hands were shaking slightly. But I was afraid of what my brother would do if he found out I was helping you. And you are not afraid now? I am terrified, but I am more terrified of staying silent. Nathan looked at Caroline. What Marcus did to you at the gala, I watched the video 100 times, and I could not stop thinking about all the times I looked the other way, all the times I made excuses for him, all the times I told myself it was none of my business. What is in the box? Caroline asked. Evidence, 5 years of it. Nathan pulled off the lid. Inside were folders, dozens of them, each one labeled with dates and categories. Financial records, emails, receipts for things Marcus tried to hide, payoffs to women, hush money agreements, everything I could get my hands on. Walter moved closer. His eyes widened as he began sorting through the contents. My God, he breathed, this is not just personal misconduct. This is corporate fraud, wire transfers that do not match company records, payments to shell companies, securities violations. I know. Nathan sat down heavily in a kitchen chair. I have been keeping copies for years. Insurance, in case Marcus ever turned on me, in case I needed leverage to protect myself. You could go to prison for some of this, Carolyn said, if you were directly involved. I was not directly involved. I just looked the other way. I saw things that did not add up, and I did not ask questions. I heard rumors, and I pretended not to hear them. Nathan met her eyes. That makes me guilty, too. Just in a different way. Walter pulled out a thick folder of printed emails. He read quickly, his expression growing grimmer with each page. Marcus used company funds to pay off his mistresses, he said. At least 4 women over the past 5 years. All bound by non-disclosure agreements. All paid between $50,000 and $200,000 to stay silent. Sloane is not the first, Nathan confirmed. She is not even the second or third. She is just the one who gave him something he wanted badly enough to risk everything. A child, Carolyn said. The word tasted like ash in her mouth. She gave him another child. A son, or that is what the early genetic tests suggest. Marcus has always wanted a son. Nathan looked down at the table. I am sorry, I know that makes this even harder. A son. Marcus had always talked about wanting a son, someone to carry on the Ashford name, someone to inherit the empire, someone to mold in his own image. Carolyn was carrying a girl she had known for weeks, had not told Marcus yet. Maybe that was why he had started pulling away. Maybe he already knew somehow. Or maybe he just did not care anymore. This changes things, Walter said. He was still sorting through documents. With this evidence, we are not just looking at divorce proceedings. We are looking at criminal charges, federal charges. The SEC will want to see this. The FBI might want to see this. I know. Nathan stood up. Do what you need to do. I will testify if necessary, under oath, on the record, whatever it takes. Why? Carolyn asked. The question had been burning in her since he walked through the door. Why betray your own brother? Your own blood? Nathan paused. He was standing by the window, sunlight streaming in around him. For a moment, he looked so much like Marcus that Caroline's heart clenched. Because he is not my brother anymore, Nathan said quietly. Not the brother I grew up with. That person died somewhere along the way, replaced by someone I do not recognize. Someone cruel. Someone empty. Someone who hurts people and feels nothing. When did it start? The change? I do not know exactly. Maybe it was always there and I just did not see it. Or maybe it happened gradually. Like watching someone drown in slow motion and convincing yourself they are just waving. He looked at her belly, at the life growing inside her. That baby deserves better than what Marcus can offer. All children do. He moved toward the door. My lawyer will be in touch. When you are ready to file, I will be there. He left without waiting for a response. Caroline stood at the window and watched him drive away. The box of evidence sat on the table behind her. 5 years of her husband's crimes documented and cataloged. The enemy of my enemy, Dorothy said from the doorway. She had been listening from the hall. I do not trust him. You do not have to trust him. You just have to use what he gives you. Carolyn turned back to the table, began looking through the folders herself, page after page of betrayal, transaction after transaction, woman after woman. She had not known Marcus at all. She had been married to a stranger. That afternoon brought another unexpected visitor. Carolyn opened the door to find Vivian Ashford standing on the porch. Marcus's mother, the matriarch of the Ashford dynasty, the woman who had criticized Caroline's table settings at every family dinner for 7 years. May I come in? Vivian asked. Her voice was different than usual. Softer, almost hesitant. Please, I know I have no right to ask, but this is important. Against every instinct screaming at her to slam the door, Caroline stepped aside. They sat in the formal living room like strangers at a funeral. The antique furniture felt cold and unwelcoming. Dorothy hovered nearby, ready to intervene if necessary. I watched the video, Vivian said finally. She did not look at Caroline. She stared at her own hands folded in her lap. The real one, not the edited version Marcus's PR team has been circulating. Everyone has seen it by now. Yes, but not everyone has to live with the knowledge that they raised the man who did that. Vivian's voice cracked. I failed him, Carolyn. I failed both my sons. I let their father turn them into this. What do you mean their father? Edward was unfaithful throughout our marriage. From the very beginning. 23 affairs that I know of. Probably more. Vivian's voice was flat, emotionless. The voice of someone recounting facts they have long since stopped feeling. I looked the other way every time. Told myself it was just how men of our class behaved. Told myself I was being sophisticated, European, modern. And Marcus learned from that. He learned that men like him can do anything without consequences. That women exist to be used and discarded. That marriage is a business arrangement, and mistresses are just an employee benefit. Vivian finally looked up. Her eyes were red-rimmed. I should have left Edward years ago. I should have taken my boys and started over. But I was afraid. Afraid of what? Of losing everything. The money, the houses, the social position, the life I had built. She laughed bitterly. Now I realize I had nothing worth keeping anyway. A hollow marriage. Children who learned all the wrong lessons. A lifetime of pretending to be happy. Caroline did not know what to say. Part of her wanted to comfort this broken woman. Part of her wanted to scream that comfort was not something she had to spare right now. Vivian reached into her designer purse. She pulled out a manila envelope and placed it on the coffee table between them. Edward's will left Marcus controlling interest in Ashford Dynamics, she explained, but the inheritance was conditional. He had to maintain what the will called family values and a reputation befitting the Ashford name. The exact language is in these documents. The board can remove him. With sufficient evidence of conduct unbecoming, yes, a 2/3 majority vote. Vivian pushed the envelope toward Caroline. These are copies of the board bylaws, the removal procedures, the voting requirements, and my sworn affidavit regarding what I witnessed at the gala. Caroline picked up the envelope. It was heavier than she expected. Why are you helping me? I thought you hated me. I never hated you. I was jealous of you. Vivian's admission seemed to surprise even herself. You had everything I wanted, a loving family, self-respect, a career you built on your own merits. You did not need Marcus. You chose him. I chose wrong. We all choose wrong sometimes. The difference is what we do after we realize our mistake. Vivian stood to leave. She looked older than Caroline had ever seen her, smaller somehow, as if the secrets she had been carrying had finally crushed her. That baby is my grandchild, Vivian said. My only grandchild, unless Marcus's other woman carries to term. And I will not let my son destroy another generation of this family. What do you want in return? Nothing. I want nothing except the chance to be a better grandmother than I was a mother, if you will allow it, someday, when you are ready. After she left, Caroline sat alone with the envelope in her hands, 2 Ashfords in one day, both turning against Marcus. Well, Dorothy said, returning from seeing Vivian out, that was unexpected. I do not trust her either. Of course not. She enabled her husband's behavior for decades. She created the environment that produced Marcus. Dorothy sat beside her daughter. But wounded animals can be useful. They have nothing left to lose. Carolyn opened the envelope and began reading. Vivian was right about one thing. The board could remove Marcus as CEO. With Nathan's financial evidence and Vivian's testimony, they could strip him of everything he had built. It would not undo the pain. It would not give Caroline back her marriage or her innocence or the life she thought she was going to live. But it was a start. 2 weeks after the gala, the legal war officially began. Graham Whitfield filed the divorce petition on a Monday morning. By Monday afternoon, Marcus's lawyers had filed a counter-petition claiming abandonment and emotional cruelty. They are claiming I abandoned him, Carolyn said, staring at the documents. I left after he threw a drink in my face in front of 500 people. They know it will not hold up, Graham assured her. This is just noise. They are trying to drag out the proceedings and make everything as painful as possible. Why? Because pain is the only weapon Marcus has left. He cannot win on the merits. So he is going to try to win by wearing you down. The next week brought a flurry of motions and counter-motions, requests for discovery, subpoenas for financial records, depositions scheduled and rescheduled. Each day seemed to bring a new crisis, but the biggest battle was still to come. The board meeting was scheduled for a Tuesday. Caroline spent the night before unable to sleep, going over strategy with her father and Graham until 3 a.m. The key is presenting the evidence in the right order, Graham explained. We start with the personal conduct. The affairs, the assault at the gala, that establishes the pattern of behavior. Then we move to the financial irregularities, the embezzlement, the securities violations. That is what will scare the board. They do not care about his personal life, Walter added. These are business people. They care about liability. They care about the IPE. They care about anything that might affect their stock options. So we appeal to their greed. We appeal to their self-interest. Same thing, different name. The morning of the board meeting, Caroline dressed carefully. Navy blue dress, conservative cut, minimal jewelry. She wanted to look professional, competent. Nothing like the emotional, unstable woman Marcus's PR team had been describing. The Ashford Dynamics headquarters was a glass tower in the financial district. 60 stories of corporate ambition reaching toward the sky. Marcus had built it from nothing. His greatest achievement, his monument to himself. Caroline had not been here in months. She used to visit regularly, bring Marcus lunch, meet him for dinner. Now the building felt hostile, enemy territory. The boardroom was on the top floor, floor-to-ceiling windows with views of the entire city, a massive table surrounded by leather chairs, everything chrome and glass and cold. Marcus was already there when she arrived. He sat at the head of the table like a king on his throne. He had not expected her. His face cycled through surprise, then anger, then forced calm in the span of 2 seconds. Caroline. His voice was controlled, pleasant even, as if they were meeting at a cocktail party. What are you doing here? I have business with the board. She took a seat at the opposite end of the table. Graham sat beside him. Her father took a position near the wall, observing. Do not worry, it should not take long. The board members shifted uncomfortably in their leather chairs, 12 men and women who had spent years deferring to Marcus Ashford, agreeing with his decisions, taking his money. Now they watched his pregnant wife sit down with a briefcase full of documents and a look of absolute determination. What is this about? Marcus demanded. His composure was slipping. Carolyn could see the anger building behind his eyes. Evidence, Graham said calmly, of fraud, embezzlement, securities violations, and conduct unbecoming of a CEO. This is ridiculous. I am not going to sit here and listen to baseless accusations from my estranged wife and her hired gun. Then perhaps you should leave, because the board is going to hear these accusations whether you are present or not. Marcus's jaw tightened, but he stayed in his seat. Leaving would be an admission of guilt. He was too proud for that. For the next 2 hours, Graham presented the case. He started with the personal conduct, the affairs documented in Nathan's files, the payoffs to former mistresses, the assault at the Gala, with the video evidence projected on the boardroom screen for everyone to see again. Then he moved to the financial crimes, the offshore accounts, the shell companies, the wire transfers that did not match company records, the embezzlement of company funds to pay personal expenses. Carolyn watched the board members' faces as each piece of evidence landed. Shock, disgust, fear. They had tied their fortunes to Marcus Ashford, and now they were realizing exactly what that meant. This evidence was obtained illegally, Marcus interrupted. His voice had lost its earlier composure. Now it was sharp, desperate. My brother stole those documents. Anything he provided is inadmissible. In criminal court, perhaps, Graham replied, but this is not a criminal proceeding. This is a board meeting, and the bylaws allow consideration of any evidence relevant to the potential removal of a CEO. The bylaws also require a 2/3 majority vote for removal. You will never get 2/3. I am aware of the requirements. Graham nodded toward Vivian, who had been sitting silently in the corner of the room. Mrs. Ashford Sr. controls 18% of voting shares through her trust. Combined with the shares held by board members who have already indicated their support for removal, we have 71%. Marcus's face went pale. He turned to his mother. You cannot be serious about this. Vivian met his gaze without flinching. I am very serious, Marcus. More serious than I have been about anything in years. I am your son. You were my son. The boy I raised would never have thrown champagne in his pregnant wife's face in front of 500 people. Her voice was ice. The boy I raised had a conscience. Somewhere along the way, you lost yours. This is a conspiracy. You are all conspiring against me because you are jealous of what I built. Carolyn spoke for the first time in nearly an hour. No, Marcus, this is not a conspiracy. This is consequences. Something you have avoided your entire life because your money and your charm and your family name always protected you. She stood, her pregnant belly prominent against her navy dress. Those protections are gone now. He turned on her with fury blazing in his eyes. You will regret this. I will destroy you. I will take everything you have. Our child will never know you. Our child will know exactly who you are. Carolyn's voice was calm, steady. The anger that had been burning inside her for weeks had finally found its purpose. I will make sure of it. And the board voted, 9-3 in favor of removal. Marcus Ashford was stripped of his position as CEO of Ashford Dynamics, the company he had built from nothing, the empire that bore his name. Security escorted him from the building. Caroline watched through the boardroom windows as he emerged on the street below. He looked up at the tower, his tower. For a long moment, he just stood there. Then he got into a waiting car and drove away. Caroline did not celebrate. She drove to a cemetery on the edge of town, her grandmother's grave, a quiet place she had visited for years when she needed to think. The headstone was simple gray marble. Margaret Brennan, beloved mother and grandmother, her dates carved beneath. Carolyn lowered herself carefully onto the stone bench beside the grave. Her belly was huge now, 8.5 months. Moving was becoming difficult. "I did it, Grandma," she said to the empty air. "I stood up to him. I took back some of what he stole from me." A bird sang somewhere in the oak trees. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the grass. The cemetery was empty except for her. "I thought it would feel better. I thought destroying him would fill this hole inside me." She touched her chest. "It did not. I am still angry, still hurt, still grieving for the life I thought I was getting to have." Her baby kicked, a gentle reminder that she was not alone. "But I am also something else, something new." Caroline looked at her hands, strong hands, capable hands. "I am not afraid anymore. Not of him, not of what comes next, not of being alone." She stayed until the sun began to set, talking to her grandmother, to herself, to the baby growing inside her. "I used to think strength meant never falling down," she said as the sky turned orange and pink. "Now I know it means getting back up, again and again, as many times as it takes." The drive home was quiet. No music, no phone calls, just Caroline and her thoughts. Marcus had sent 17 text messages during the board meeting, each one more threatening than the last. She had not read any of them. His lawyers had filed 3 more motions: harassment, defamation, interference with business relations. Graham had dismissed each one as desperate flailing. The criminal investigation was moving forward. Federal prosecutors were very interested in Nathan's documents. But none of that mattered right now. Right now, all that mattered was getting through today, and then tomorrow, and then the day after that, one foot in front of the other, until she reached solid ground. But her father was waiting when she got home. "The restraining order was granted," he said, "effective immediately. Marcus cannot come within 500 feet of you, your residence, or your parents' home." "Good." The assault charges were formally filed, misdemeanor battery. His arraignment is next Tuesday. "Also good, eh?" Walter studied her face with concern. "How are you feeling? Really?" "Tired, relieved, angry." Carolyn sank onto the couch in her parents' living room. The cushions embraced her like an old friend. "I keep waiting for the anger to fade. It does not. It just sits there, burning." Anger is not always bad. Sometimes it is fuel. It keeps you moving when nothing else will. "I know, but it is exhausting. I feel like I have been running a marathon for weeks and there is no finish line in sight." "There will be a finish line, I promise. Not today, not tomorrow, but eventually." "How do you know?" "Because I have watched people rebuild after worse. I spent 42 years on the bench. I saw families destroyed by violence, by addiction, by betrayal, and I saw some of them come back, stronger than before, better than before. And the ones who did not come back?" Walter sat beside her. His weight on the couch was comforting, solid. "They gave up. They let the anger consume them instead of using it. They became so focused on revenge that they forgot to live. I do not want to become that. You will not. I know you. I have known you since you were a tiny pink creature screaming in my arms. You are a fighter, but you are also a builder. You do not just tear things down. You create something new from the rubble." The baby kicked. Caroline smiled despite herself. "She is restless tonight. Maybe she knows something is happening. She knows her mother is fighting for her. Even before she is born, she knows." Caroline opened her eyes and looked at her father, the man who had spent her entire life protecting her. "I am not the same person I was before the gala," she said. "That Caroline is gone. I know. I do not know who I am becoming. I just know I cannot go back to who I was." "Then go forward. One day at a time, one step at a time, until you find yourself again." Carolyn nodded, She did not have the words to respond properly, but she knew he was right. The old Caroline was gone. The new one was still being forged, in fire and pain and anger. She did not know who she would be when the flames died down, but she was ready to find out. 3 weeks after the gala, the stress finally caught up with her. Caroline was in her parents' kitchen, making tea she did not want, when the first contraction hit. A sharp, squeezing pain that wrapped around her belly like a vice. She gasped and grabbed the counter. The mug slipped from her fingers and shattered on the tile floor. Ceramic shards scattered everywhere. "No," she whispered. "Not yet. It is too soon." The second contraction came 5 minutes later, stronger than the first. She bent over the counter, breathing through the pain the way she had learned in her prenatal classes. In, out, in, out. Ride the wave. Let it pass. The third contraction came 4 minutes after that. Then the fourth. Something was wrong. The baby was not due for another 3 weeks. This was too early. Much too early. Dorothy found her on the kitchen floor, sitting among the broken ceramic, phone in hand, trying to remember the number for her doctor's emergency line. "We are going to the hospital," Dorothy said. No panic in her voice, just calm authority. The voice of a woman who had handled 100 crises and never lost her composure. "Right now, do not argue." "Mom, it is too soon. The baby is not ready." "Babies come when they want to come. That is one thing you cannot control." Dorothy helped her to her feet. "Walter, get the car." The drive to the hospital was a blur of pain and fear. Walter broke at least 3 traffic laws. Dorothy sat in the back seat, holding Caroline's hand, counting the seconds between contractions. "You are going to be fine," she said repeatedly. "The baby is going to be fine. Focus on breathing. That is all you have to do right now." "It is too early. 8 months is too early. Something must be wrong." "Babies born at 8 months have excellent survival rates these days. Modern medicine can handle this." But survival was not enough. Carolyn wanted her daughter to thrive, to be healthy, to have every possible advantage in life. She had already failed her child by choosing the wrong father. She could not fail her again by letting stress damage her health. The hospital was bright and loud and overwhelming. Nurses rushed her to a room in a flurry of activity. Monitors were attached to her belly. An IV was inserted into her arm. Doctors spoke in calm, measured tones that did nothing to ease her fear. "The contractions are slowing," Dr. Morrison said after an hour of monitoring. "We are going to keep you overnight for observation, but I do not think we are looking at imminent labor." "What caused this?" "I was just making tea. I was not doing anything stressful." Your body does not care what you are doing in the moment. It cares about cumulative stress. Dr. Morrison sat on the edge of the bed. Her voice was kind but firm. "Carolyn, you have been through enormous trauma in the past few weeks. Your body is responding to that. It is trying to tell you something." "What is it trying to tell me?" "That you need to slow down. Rest. Let other people handle things for a while." "I cannot slow down. There is too much happening: the divorce, the criminal case, the custody situation. None of those things will matter if you deliver prematurely and spend months in the NICU." Dr. Morrison's eyes were serious. "I am not trying to scare you. I am trying to make you understand. That baby needs you healthy. Whatever battles you are fighting can wait." Stress. Marcus had done this. Even from a distance, even with a restraining order, he was still hurting her, still damaging her body, still threatening her child. The rage that flared inside her was almost physical in its intensity. "I need her to be okay," Carolyn said. Her voice cracked. "She is all I have left." "She is fine. Her heartbeat is strong. She is active and responding well. You have done nothing wrong." Dr. Morrison squeezed her hand. "But you need to take care of yourself too, for her sake and for yours." So, that night, alone in the hospital room, Carolyn finally let herself fall apart. The tears came in waves, not the pretty, delicate crying of movies. Ugly, gasping sobs that shook her entire body and left her breathless. She buried her face in the hospital pillow and screamed into the cotton. She cried for her marriage, for the 7 years she had invested in a lie, for the man she thought she knew and the monster he turned out to be. She cried for herself, for the naive woman who had believed in happily ever after, for all the signs she had missed and all the lies she had swallowed, for the future she had planned that would never exist. She cried for her daughter, for the innocent life growing inside her who would enter a world of chaos and conflict. Who would have to explain her father to everyone she met? Who deserves so much better than this? She cried until there was nothing left, until she was empty, hollow, a shell of a woman lying in a hospital bed at 3 in the morning. The clock on the wall ticked steadily, the only sound in the quiet room. 3:17, 3:18, 3:19. Caroline stared at the ceiling, counted the tiles, 32, counted them again. 32, the same thing she had done as a child, lying in her childhood bed at night, waiting for her father to come home from late court sessions, counting ceiling tiles to pass the time, to feel like she had control over something. Some habits never died. I do not know how to do this, she whispered to the empty room. I do not know how to be alone. I do not know how to be a single mother. I do not know how to rebuild a life that was built on lies. The baby moved, a gentle flutter against her palm, a tiny foot or hand pressing outward, as if to say, "You are not alone, I am here. But I will figure it out." Carolyn pressed both hands against her belly. "For you, little one. I will figure it out for you." She did not sleep for the rest of the night. She lay there until the sun came up, watching the shadows shift across the ceiling, thinking about everything that had happened and everything that was still to come. When the nurse arrived with breakfast, Caroline was calm again. The storm had passed. "How are you feeling?" the nurse asked, setting down a tray of hospital food. "Better. I think I just needed to let it all out." "That is completely normal. You have been through a trauma. Your body and your mind both need to process it. I have been trying so hard to be strong, to keep moving, to not let him see me break." "You are strong, but even strong people need to cry sometimes. You cannot pour from an empty cup." Carolyn ate her breakfast, eggs that were slightly rubbery, toast that was somehow both dry and soggy, orange juice from a tiny plastic cup. Hospital food had never tasted so good. Her parents arrived at 8. Tessa came at 9 with magazines and chocolate. Graham called at 10 with legal updates that she barely absorbed. Life kept moving, even when she wanted to stop, even when she felt like she could not take another step. That was the thing about surviving. You did not have a choice. The world kept spinning, whether you were ready or not. Dr. Morrison discharged her that afternoon with strict instructions. Bed rest for the next week. No stress, no legal meetings, no confrontations. Your job right now is to stay horizontal and let that baby finish cooking. I understand. I mean it, Caroline. I have seen too many women in your situation push themselves to the breaking point. The divorce will still be there in a week. The lawyers will still be there. But if something happens to this baby, you will never forgive yourself. I will rest. I promise. Good. I will see you next week for a checkup. The drive home was quiet. Dorothy sat beside her in the back seat, holding her hand without speaking. Sometimes words were not necessary. When they pulled into the driveway of the Brennan estate, a familiar car was parked by the gate, a silver BMW that Caroline recognized immediately. Sloane Mitchell stood beside it. Caroline's stomach dropped. What is she doing here? I do not know, Walter said, his voice tight. But I am going to find out. Wait. Caroline opened her car door before anyone could stop her. I will handle this. Caroline, you just got out of the hospital. I know, but this is something I need to do. She walked towards Sloane on unsteady legs. Her hospital bracelet was still on her wrist. Her clothes were wrinkled from sleeping in them. She probably looked terrible. Sloane did not look much better. Pale, exhausted, dark circles under her eyes. Her designer clothes hung loose on her frame. She had lost weight. A lot of weight. What do you want? Caroline asked. To talk, that is all. Sloane's voice was quiet, almost timid, nothing like the confident, mocking woman who had laughed at the gala. I know I do not deserve it, but please, just give me 5 minutes. Against every instinct telling her to walk away, Caroline nodded. 5 minutes. That is all. They sat on the stone bench in the garden, 2 pregnant women facing each other. 2 women bound by the same man, the same lies. You were right, Sloane said after a long silence. About everything. About Marcus. About who he really is. I know. He is not the man I thought he was. The man I fell in love with does not exist. Sloane's hands trembled in her lap. I thought I was special. Different. I thought what we had was real. He told me the same things 7 years ago. I believed him too. I was so stupid. So blind. I saw what I wanted to see because the alternative was too painful. Carolyn felt something unexpected stir in her chest. Not sympathy exactly, but recognition. She knew that pain. She had lived it. Why are you here, Sloane? What do you want from me? Help. The word came out as barely a whisper. I know I do not deserve it. After what I did to your marriage. After everything. But I do not know where else to turn. What kind of help? Marcus is threatening me. He says if I go public with anything, if I talk to anyone, he will take my baby. He will claim I am an unfit mother. He will use his money and his lawyers to destroy me. Sounds familiar. I know it sounds like karma, the other woman getting exactly what she deserves. Sloane's eyes filled with tears. But my baby did not do anything wrong. My baby does not deserve to be used as a weapon. Carolyn thought about her own daughter, the innocent life growing inside her, a child who had not asked for any of this, who did not deserve to suffer for her parents' choices. Our babies are siblings, she said slowly. Half siblings, whether we like it or not, whether we wanted it or not. I know. And they deserve better than their father's war. Sloane nodded, tears spilled down her cheeks. I will give you the name of my attorney, Carolyn said. He can refer you to someone good, someone who specializes in cases like yours. Thank you. But understand this. Oh, Carolyn's voice hardened. I am not your friend. I am not your ally. I am a woman who knows what it is like to be deceived by Marcus Ashford. That is all we have in common. That is enough. More than I deserve. Carolyn stood up. Her legs were shaky. Her back ached. She needed to lie down. The next time you fall in love with someone, she said, looking down at Sloane, make sure they are actually available. Make sure they are telling you the truth. Make sure you are not building your happiness on someone else's pain. She walked back toward the house without waiting for a response. Behind her, she heard Sloane crying. Quiet, desperate sobs that echoed across the garden. She did not turn around. The fourth week brought the worst news yet. Graham called on a Tuesday morning while Caroline was trying to follow doctor's orders and rest. His voice was tense, controlled, the voice of a lawyer delivering bad news. Marcus filed an emergency motion. He is challenging the validity of the prenuptial agreement. Caroline sat up in bed so fast she got dizzy. On what grounds? That agreement was airtight. You and my father wrote it yourselves. Duress. He claims he was pressured into signing by your father, that he did not fully understand the implications of the infidelity clause, that he was young and in love and did not want to jeopardize the wedding by refusing. That is completely false. He had 3 lawyers review it. He negotiated changes himself. I know, but he found a judge who was willing to hear the argument. Judge Patterson, known for being sympathetic to wealthy defendants. Sympathetic or bought? Perhaps both. Graham paused. The hearing is Friday. If Marcus wins, the prenup is void. You lose most of your leverage. 3 days, she had 3 days to prepare for a hearing that could determine her entire financial future. What are our chances? On the merits, excellent. But this is not about merits. This is about Marcus throwing enough money at the problem to make it go away. And Judge Patterson has a history of letting that happen. So he might actually get away with it, after everything. Not if I have anything to say about it. I am already preparing our response. We will bury them in evidence. Carolyn hung up the phone, stared at the ceiling, tried to remember how to breathe normally. He was still finding ways to hurt her. After the board meeting, after the criminal charges, after the restraining order, Marcus Ashford was still finding ways to hurt her. She found her father in his study, already on the phone with someone. His face was grim. I heard, he said after hanging up. Graham called me right after he called you. What do? We fight, same as we have been fighting. He set down his pen. This is a delay tactic, Carolyn. Marcus knows he is losing on every front. He is throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks. What if this sticks? What if he buys this judge like he has bought everything else? Then we appeal. We keep fighting. We do not give up, ever. I am so tired, Daddy. I am so tired of fighting. Her voice cracked on the last word. She felt tears threatening again. She did not know she had any tears left. Walter stood and crossed to her, put his hands on her shoulders, made her look at him. I know you are tired. You have every right to be. But you are almost through this. A few more weeks, a few more battles, and then it will be over. Will it? Or will he keep finding new ways to hurt me for the rest of my life? New lawsuits, new accusations, new ways to make me suffer? He will try. Men like Marcus always do. They do not know how to lose gracefully. They do not know how to let go. Walter's voice was fierce. But you are stronger than him, smarter than him, and you have something he does not. What? People who love you, people who will fight beside you, people who will never give up on you no matter how hard things get. Caroline let herself be held. Let herself be small for just a moment. Let her father be the strong one. Then she straightened her spine, squared her shoulders. Okay, she said, let us prepare for Friday. The hearing was brutal. Marcus arrived at the courthouse with an army of lawyers, 6 of them in matching expensive suits with matching confident smiles. They carried matching leather briefcases and matching expressions of smug superiority. Carolyn sat at the opposite table with Graham and one associate, David against Goliath. Judge Patterson was older, male. His eyes lingered on Marcus with something that looked uncomfortably like admiration. Mr. Ashford claims he signed the prenuptial agreement under duress, the judge said. Present your case. Marcus's lead attorney stood. For the next 90 minutes, he painted a picture of a young man overwhelmed by his powerful future father-in-law, a man who signed documents without fully understanding them because he was so desperately in love, a victim of circumstance. It was lies, every word of it. But lies told well by an expensive lawyer could be convincing. Then it was Graham's turn. He produced records, emails between Marcus and his own attorneys before the wedding, detailed analyses of the prenup that Marcus had requested, multiple revisions that Marcus himself had negotiated. Mr. Ashford had 3 separate lawyers review this agreement, Graham said. He negotiated 14 specific changes over a period of 2 months. He was fully informed, fully counseled, and fully willing to sign. The changes he requested were minor, Marcus's attorney countered. Window dressing. He did not understand the implications of the infidelity clause. The infidelity clause is written in plain English. It states clearly that any party who engages in adultery forfeits their claim to marital assets. A first-year law student could understand it. My client was not a lawyer. He was a businessman in love. Graham pulled out another document. Your Honor, I submit into evidence an email sent by Mr. Ashford to his personal attorney 3 days before the wedding. Allow me to read the relevant portion. He cleared his throat. The infidelity clause is harsh but fair. If I ever cheat on Caroline, I deserve to lose everything. That is not going to happen, so I have no concerns about signing. End quote. The courtroom went silent. Judge Patterson reviewed the email, took his time. His expression was unreadable. There is also the matter of the evidence supporting the infidelity allegation, Graham continued. We have video evidence of Mr. Ashford's assault on his pregnant wife in defense of his mistress. We have DNA evidence confirming that mistress is carrying his child. We have financial records showing he used marital assets to pay off multiple previous mistresses over a 5-year period. Alleged mistresses, Marcus's lawyer interrupted weakly. The DNA does not lie. The bank records do not lie. The only one lying in this courtroom is your client. Judge Patterson held up a hand for silence. I have heard enough. He looked at Marcus, then at Caroline. The prenuptial agreement is valid and enforceable. The motion to invalidate is denied. Caroline exhaled. She had not realized she was holding her breath. Marcus slammed his palm against the table. This is outrageous. You cannot. I can and I have, Judge Patterson interrupted. One more outburst and I will hold you in contempt of court. Do you understand me, Mr. Ashford? Marcus's jaw clenched so hard Caroline could see the muscle jump, but he nodded. Good. Court is adjourned. Caroline made it to the parking garage before she started shaking. "We won," Graham said. "The prenup holds. He cannot touch the assets." "I know, I just need a minute." She leaned against her father's car, closed her eyes, tried to slow her racing heart. They had won this battle, but the war was far from over. Marcus had looked at her as they left the courtroom. Just for a moment, their eyes had met across the crowded hallway, and in that look, she had seen something that chilled her to the bone. Pure hatred, cold and absolute and terrifying. He was not going to stop, no matter how many battles he lost, no matter how many courts ruled against him, no matter how much money it cost. He would keep coming after her until one of them was destroyed. She had known this intellectually, but seeing it in his eyes made it visceral, real. "Caroline?" Her father's voice was gentle, concerned. "Are you all right?" "No, but I will be." She opened her eyes, looked at the concrete ceiling of the parking garage, ugly and gray and solid. "I want this to be over," she said. "I want to stop fighting and start living again. I want to focus on my baby instead of my divorce. I want to sleep through the night without nightmares." "Soon, the divorce will be final in 2 weeks. After that, he has no legal hold over you. He will find other ways, you know he will. And we will handle them, one at a time, until he runs out of ammunition or the will to fight." Carolyn touched her belly. The baby had been quiet all through the hearing, as if she knew to stay still during the storm. "I keep thinking about what kind of world I am bringing her into," she said. "A world where her father is a monster, where she will have to explain him to every friend, every teacher, every future partner. She will also have to explain her mother, the woman who fought for her, who protected her, who refused to give up no matter how hard it got." Walter opened the car door for her. That is a story worth telling. They drove home through afternoon traffic, past the hospital where Ellie would be born, past the courthouse where the divorce would be finalized, past the life Caroline was leaving behind. Everything was changing. Everything was uncertain, but she was still standing, and that was enough. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday in late spring. Carolyn sat in Judge Morrison's chambers with Graham and her father. Marcus was not present. His lawyers handled the final signatures on his behalf. He could not even be bothered to show up for the end of their marriage. She should have been hurt. Instead, she felt only relief. "By the power vested in me by the state," Judge Morrison said, "I hereby dissolve the marriage between Caroline Brennan Ashford and Marcus James Ashford." Just like that, 7 years of marriage reduced to a signature and a stamp, a stack of papers, a few lines in a court record. She had expected to feel something profound. Grief, loss, the end of a chapter. Instead, she felt light, like a weight she had been carrying for years had finally been lifted from her shoulders. "Congratulations," Graham said. He did not mean it sarcastically. "You came out of this with everything you fought for." Everything was a lot. $42 million in assets the prenup had held. The infidelity clause had triggered. Marcus had lost virtually everything. Full legal custody of the unborn child, physical custody to be determined after birth. Marcus would get supervised visitation at most, the penthouse if she wanted it, the cars, the jewelry, the art collection, everything Caroline had helped build over 7 years of marriage. "What happens to him now?" she asked. "Criminal proceedings continue. The assault charge goes to trial next month. He is expected to plead guilty to a misdemeanor to avoid a felony conviction." Graham closed his briefcase. "The federal investigation into securities fraud is ongoing. I expect indictments within the year." "And Ashford Dynamics?" "The board appointed Nathan as interim CEO. The company is stable. The IPO is postponed, but not canceled. Life goes on." Carolyn nodded. She did not care about the company. She never had. That was Marcus's dream, not hers. "I want to go home," she said. "Not my parents' house, my home, the penthouse." Walter looked concerned. "Are you sure after everything that happened there?" "It is just a building, walls and floors and windows. And it is mine now, legally, completely mine." She stood with difficulty. 9 months pregnant, 2 weeks from her due date, movement was a challenge. "I need to make it mine, really mine. Erase him from every room." They drove to the penthouse in 2 cars. Caroline in the backseat of her father's sedan, Graham following behind with documents to sign. The doorman smiled when he saw her. Thomas. He had always been kind to her. Mrs. Ashford, it is good to see you. It is Ms. Brennan now, but thank you, Thomas. Of course, Ms. Brennan. Welcome home. The elevator ride was long, 47 floors. She had made this trip thousands of times over 5 years, usually rushing, usually preoccupied. This time she counted the floors as they passed. 1, 2, 3, each floor a step toward a new beginning. The doors opened onto the apartment she had shared with Marcus. Marble floors gleaming, floor-to-ceiling windows framing a panoramic view. $12 million worth of real estate in one of the most exclusive buildings in the city. Everything looked exactly the same. The furniture, the art, the view. Nothing had changed, but everything had changed. Carolyn walked through the room slowly, taking her time, reclaiming each space with her presence. The living room where they had hosted charity galas and dinner parties, where Marcus had charmed donors and investors while Caroline smiled beside him. The kitchen where she had tried to cook elaborate meals to impress him, where she had stood alone on too many nights, eating takeout while waiting for him to come home. The bedroom where they had lain together planning their future, where she had started to feel lonely even with him beside her. She ended up in the nursery, the room she had designed with such hope. Pale yellow walls because she did not know the gender yet. White furniture ordered from an expensive boutique. A rocking chair by the window where she had imagined nursing her baby. She sat in the rocking chair now, looked out at the city sprawled below her. Millions of lights, millions of lefts, millions of stories unfolding simultaneously. This is going to be your room, little one, she said to her belly. I decorated it before I knew the truth, before I understood what kind of man your father really was. The baby kicked, strong and insistent, ready to meet the world. I am going to change it. New colors, new furniture, new everything. When you come here, it will be ours, just ours. His ghost will not be welcome. She rocked slowly, back and forth. The rhythm was soothing, ancient and instinctive. I am scared, she admitted to the empty room. I have never done this alone. I do not know if I can be enough for you, if I can be both mother and father, if I can give you everything you deserve. Another kick, almost like a reassurance. But I am going to try every single day. I am going to give you all the love I have, and I am going to teach you things, important things. She listed them out loud, making them real. I am going to teach you to be strong, not the hard kind of strong that breaks, the flexible kind that bends but never shatters. I am going to teach you to trust your instincts. When something feels wrong, it probably is wrong. Never let anyone convince you otherwise. I am going to teach you that you are enough, just as you are. You do not need to be prettier or smarter or more agreeable to deserve love. And I am going to teach you that falling down is not failure. Staying down is failure. Getting back up is victory. The sun was setting over the city now, orange and gold and pink painting the sky. Beautiful despite everything. Beautiful because of everything. Carolyn sat in the rocking chair until the sky went dark and the city lights came on. Thinking about the past, planning for the future. Not the future she had imagined, but maybe something better, something real. The next few days were a blur of transformation. She hired movers to remove every trace of Marcus, every suit, every watch, every photo where he appeared, gone. She hired painters to change the colors. The cold gray walls became warm cream. The stark white accents became soft sage green, colors that welcomed rather than intimidated. She hired decorators to transform the nursery. New furniture arrived, simpler, warmer, more like a home and less like a showroom from an expensive magazine. Tessa helped. Dorothy helped. Even Vivian came by once, bringing a handmade blanket for the baby. My grandmother made this pattern, Vivian said, holding up the soft white wool. She taught me when I was a girl. I made this one myself over the past 2 months, for my granddaughter. Carolyn accepted it, another complicated gift from a complicated source. Thank you, Vivian. I know I cannot undo what happened, I cannot change what Marcus became or what I enabled by looking the other way. But I can try to be different going forward. Vivian's eyes were sincere, hopeful. If you will give me the chance. We will see, one step at a time, one day at a time. It was all any of them could promise Utamon. On the third night in the penthouse, Caroline woke at 2 in the morning. Not from nightmares, not from pain, from something else entirely. Peace. She lay in the darkness, listening to the city sounds 47 floors below. Distant sirens, the hum of traffic, the pulse of millions of lives happening all at once. For the first time in months, she felt calm. Not happy? Not yet. Happiness was still too far away to imagine. But calm, centered, like the storm had finally passed and she was standing in the wreckage, ready to rebuild. She got up and walked to the window. The city sparkled beneath her like a blanket of stars that had fallen to earth. I survived, she said to her reflection in the glass. I actually survived. Her reflection stared back at her. A woman 9 months pregnant, dark circles under her eyes, hair pulled back in a messy bun, wearing old pajamas that had seen better days. But there was something in her eyes that had not been there before. Strength. Quiet, unshakable strength. Not the kind that came from anger or revenge. The kind that came from breaking down completely and building yourself back up, piece by piece from the foundation. She had been through the fire, and she had not been consumed. She had been forged. You are almost here, little one, she said to her belly. Just a few more days, and then we begin our real life together. The baby shifted, settling into position, getting ready. Carolyn went back to bed, slept until dawn without dreaming. When she woke, the sun was streaming through the windows, and she was ready. Eleanor Grace Brennan arrived at 6:47 on a Thursday morning. 7 pounds, 4 ounces, 10 perfect fingers, 10 perfect toes. A full head of dark hair and lungs that announced her presence to the entire maternity ward. The labor had been long, 18 hours of contractions, 3 hours of pushing, more pain than Caroline had ever experienced in her life. But then the baby was in her arms, and nothing else mattered. Hello, Ellie, Caroline whispered through tears. I am your mother, and I have been waiting my whole life to meet you. Ellie opened her eyes. They were blue like all newborns, but Caroline saw something in them. A spark, a promise, a whole life waiting to unfold. She is beautiful, Dorothy said from the chair beside the bed. Her own eyes were wet. She looks just like you did when you were born. She looks like herself, like the person she is going to become. Walter stood by the window, trying and failing to hide the tears streaming down his weathered face. 42 years on the bench had not prepared him for this. Nothing could have. Would you like to hold your granddaughter? Carolyn asked. He crossed to the bed, took Ellie in his arms with the infinite care of someone handling something precious beyond measure. Hello, little one, he said softly. I am your grandfather. I am going to spoil you absolutely rotten and teach you to play chess and tell you stories about the cases I presided over. And I am going to love you more than you can possibly imagine. Carolyn laughed. It felt strange. She could not remember the last time she had laughed with genuine joy. Where did the name come from? Dorothy asked. Eleanor Grace. Eleanor was Grandma's middle name. I want Ellie to carry something of her with her. Carolyn touched her daughter's tiny hand. And Grace, because that is what I learned this year. That grace under fire is the hardest thing, but also the most important. That you can face the worst moments of your life and still choose kindness, still choose dignity, still choose to be better than the people who hurt you. That is a lot to put in a name. She is a lot of baby. She can handle it. The hospital room filled with visitors over the next 2 days. Tessa came with flowers and champagne that Caroline could not drink yet, but appreciated anyway. She cried when she held Ellie, cried more when Ellie grabbed her finger. Graham came with paperwork and congratulations. Even lawyers could be sentimental when babies were involved. Nathan stopped by, awkward but sincere. He brought a stuffed elephant that was almost bigger than Ellie herself. I want to be in her life, he said, looking at his niece and her bassinet. I know this situation is complicated. I know I am connected to a lot of painful things, but she is family, and I would like the chance to be a good uncle. We will figure it out, Caroline said. Slowly, carefully, But yes, I think we can figure it out. Sloan sent a card, no visit. That was probably for the best for now. On the second day, Carolyn's phone buzzed with a text from a blocked number. Heard the baby was born. Congratulations. She stared at the message for a long moment. She knew who had sent it, even without a name attached. She did not respond. Some bridges needed to stay burned, but she also did not feel the surge of anger she expected, just tiredness, and a distant kind of pity for a man who had lost everything and still did not understand why. So, 3 months after Ellie was born, Caroline returned to work. Not to the corporate world she had left behind, not to the foundation she had run for years, not to anything connected to her old life, to something completely new, something entirely her own. Brennan Family Law opened its doors in a modest office building downtown. Just Caroline and 2 associates she had recruited straight out of law school. Young women who reminded her of herself at that age. Hungry, idealistic, ready to fight. Their specialty, representing women in high-asset divorces. Women who were outmatched by wealthy husbands. Women who had been told they were crazy, unstable, overreacting. Women who needed someone in their corner. Her first client was a woman named Patricia, 47 years old, married for 23 years. Her husband had thrown a glass of wine at her during a charity dinner when she asked him to stop flirting with a waitress. The parallels were almost too perfect. I do not know what to do, Patricia said, sitting across from Caroline's desk. Her hands were shaking. Her eyes were red from crying. He has all the money, all the lawyers, all the connections. I have nothing. Caroline smiled, not with pity, with recognition, with understanding. You have more than you think, she said. You have the truth. You have evidence. You have 23 years of contributions to that marriage that a court will recognize, and now you have me. Can you really help? He is so powerful. He knows everyone. I know a few people too, and I know exactly how men like your husband operate. I know their playbook, their tactics, their weaknesses. Carolyn leaned forward. I am going to help you. Not because I need the money or the recognition, but because no woman should have to go through what you are going through alone. She took the case pro bono, her first of many. Down. 6 months later, Marcus Ashford was convicted of misdemeanor assault. The sentence was light, probation, community service, a fine that barely registered in his bank account. But it was something. His name would forever be associated with what he had done. The video would follow him everywhere. Google would never let him forget. The federal investigation was still ongoing. Graham predicted indictments within months. Securities fraud, wire fraud, tax evasion. The kind of charges that came with real prison time. Carolyn did not care anymore. She had stopped tracking Marcus's downfall. He was no longer her concern. Her concern was Ellie, her practice, her life, the life she had built from nothing, from wreckage, from the ashes of everything she thought she wanted. It turned out the ashes were good soil. 1 year after the gala, Caroline sat in her office after everyone else had gone home. The building was quiet. Her desk was covered with case files. The window showed a view of the city at night. Less impressive than the penthouse view, but hers in a different way. She looked at the photo on her desk. Ellie at her first birthday party, cake smeared on her face, laughing at something only she understood. I did it, baby girl, Caroline said to the photo. I survived. I rebuilt. I found something worth fighting for. The phone rang, her personal line. She answered without checking the caller ID. Ms. Brennan? My name is Jennifer Walsh. I got your number from a friend. My husband has been hiding assets and I think he is having an affair. I do not know what to do. Carolyn reached for a pen. Tell me everything, she said. Start from the beginning. Another woman, another story, another chance to help. She had found her purpose. 2 years after the gala, Caroline Brennan walked into a courthouse she had never visited before. Not as a victim, not as a witness, not as a divorcee fighting for her rights. As a lawyer, her client's lawyer. The case was complicated. A woman whose husband had systematically hidden assets throughout their 30-year marriage. Offshore accounts, shell companies, real estate under other names. The kind of financial manipulation that took years to untangle. But Caroline had learned from the best. Her father, Graham, The attorneys who had fought for her. She knew how to find hidden money. She knew how to make lying husbands sweat. Your Honor, she said, standing to address the judge, the evidence clearly shows that Mr. Bennett systematically concealed assets from his wife over the course of their marriage. We are requesting full forensic accounting and equitable distribution of all marital property, including the offshore holdings detailed in Exhibits D through M. The opposing counsel objected. The judge overruled. An hour later, Caroline's client walked out of the courthouse with a settlement that would change her life. "How can I ever thank you?" the woman asked, tears streaming down her face. "I thought I was going to lose everything. I thought he was going to win." "You are welcome," Caroline said, "but the best way to thank me is to live well. Build something beautiful with your settlement. Do not let anger consume your future." "How do you stay so calm after everything you have been through?" Caroline considered the question. It was one she had been asked many times since going public with her own story. "I learned that the prison door was unlocked all along," she said finally. "I was my own warden, keeping myself trapped in anger and pain and the need for revenge. When I finally let that go, I found something better." "What?" "Freedom, real freedom, the kind that does not depend on anyone else, the kind that comes from inside." That evening, Caroline drove to her parents' house for Sunday dinner. Ellie sat in her car seat, babbling cheerfully at her reflection in the window. 2 years old now, all curls and opinions and unstoppable energy. The house looked the same as it always had. White columns, circular driveway. The garden where Caroline had gotten married a lifetime ago. But it felt different now, like seeing a childhood home with adult eyes. Recognizing the beauty she had taken for granted, I said, "Mommy home?" Ellie asked. "Grandma and Grandpa's home. We visit here." "Ellie home?" "Our home is the apartment in the city, with your room and your toys and your books." "Ellie home, Mao," the toddler confirmed, satisfied with this answer. The front door opened before they reached it. Walter appeared, already reaching for his granddaughter. "There is my favorite girl," he said, swinging Ellie into his arms. "Did you come to help Grandpa eat all the cookies?" "Cookies!" After dinner, Carolyn said firmly, "Do not spoil her appetite." "Grandparents are supposed to spoil. It is in the job description." Dorothy appeared behind him, wiping her hands on an apron. "Dinner is almost ready. Roast chicken. Your favorite." They ate in the dining room, the same room where Caroline had announced her engagement 7 years ago. The same room where she had announced her pregnancy. The same room where she had told her parents about the affair. So much had happened in this room. So much pain. So much healing. "The firm is doing well," she told her parents over dessert. "We have 12 attorneys now, a staff of 20, more clients than we can handle." "I am proud of you," Walter said. "What you have built is remarkable. I had good teachers. You had determination. Everything else came from that." Ellie was falling asleep in her high chair, exhausted from the excitement of cookies and grandparents. Caroline lifted her gently, held her against her shoulder. "I used to dream about what my life would look like," she said softly. "When I was young, I imagined a perfect marriage, a perfect career, perfect children, everything going according to plan." "And now?" Dorothy asked. "Now I know there is no such thing as perfect. There is only real, and real is better." Later that night, after Ellie was asleep in her grandmother's guest room, Carolyn walked alone in the garden. The same garden where she had played as a child. The same garden where she had gotten married. The same garden where her life had fallen apart and slowly come back together. She stopped at the fountain in the center. Water trickled over stone. The sound was peaceful, eternal. "I forgive you." The words surprised her. She had not planned to say them, but they were true. "I forgive you, Marcus. Not for your sake, for mine. I am tired of carrying the weight of hating you. I am tired of letting what you did define me." The night was quiet, only crickets and flowing water and her own heartbeat. "You were cruel. You were selfish. You nearly destroyed me, but you did not. You could not, because I am stronger than you ever gave me credit for." She took a deep breath, let it out slowly. "I am not the woman you married anymore. She is gone. You killed her that night at the gala, but someone better grew from her ashes. Someone who knows her own worth. someone who helps other women find theirs. A light appeared in an upstairs window. Her father, probably checking on Ellie, making sure his great love was sleeping peacefully. So thank you, in a twisted way. Thank you for showing me what I was capable of surviving. Thank you for forcing me to become someone I never knew I could be. She touched the edge of the fountain, cold stone beneath her fingertips. Goodbye, Marcus. I wish you peace, even though you do not deserve it, even though you will probably never find it. She walked back toward the house, each step lighter than the last. The past was behind her now. Really, truly behind her. The future was waiting. 1 month later, Carolyn stood before a crowd of 200 women, the National Conference on Family Law, an audience of attorneys, advocates, and survivors, all gathered to hear her keynote address. I want to tell you a story, she began. It is not a pretty story. It is not an easy story, but it is a true one. She told them everything. The marriage, the affair, the gala, the champagne, the rebuilding. She told them about the nights she could not sleep, the days she could not stop crying, the moments she wanted to give up, and the reasons she did not. She told them about Ellie, about finding purpose, about choosing grace when revenge would have been easier. I am not standing here because I am special, she said as she neared the end. I am standing here because I am like every woman in this room, like every woman who has ever been hurt by someone she loved, like every woman who has ever been told she was crazy for seeing the truth. She paused, looked out at the sea of faces. I am standing here because I got back up, again and again, as many times as it took, and so can you. So can every woman you represent. So can every survivor you encounter. The prison door is not locked. It never was. We just have to remember that we hold the key. The applause started slowly, then built, then became a standing ovation. Carolyn stood at the podium and let the sound wash over her. Not victory, not revenge, not even justice exactly. Something better. Transcendence. The audience was still clapping when she stepped away from the microphone, still clapping when she walked off stage, still clapping when she found Ellie waiting with her grandmother in the wings. Mama good? Ellie asked, reaching for her. Mama is very good, Carolyn said, lifting her daughter into her arms. Mama is finally very, very good. They walked out of the convention center together, into the sunlight, into the future, a future that belonged to them, a future they had earned. Carolyn Brennan stood in the sunlight, her daughter in her arms, and smiled. Not because she had won, not because Marcus had lost everything, but because she had found something better than revenge. She found herself, the woman she was always meant to be, stronger, wiser, free. Some stories end with destruction. This one ended with transformation, and that made all the difference. If this story touched your heart, I would love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me what moment hit you the hardest. Was it the gala, the betrayal, or Caroline's journey back to herself? Your comments help other women find stories like this. Stories that remind us we are stronger than we know. If you are new here, consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell. Every week, I share stories of ordinary women facing extraordinary challenges. Stories of survival, stories of strength, stories that prove it is never too late to start over. And if you know someone who needs to hear this message today, share this story with them. Sometimes a story is exactly what someone needs to take their first step toward freedom. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Until next time, remember this. The prison door is not locked. It never was. You hold the key.